Chapter 1816 Roman Court. After Zhang Yi solved the demon god Ding, he joined the battlefield without stopping and began to clean up the mechanical army. However, due to supporting the demon god Ding, these mechanical life forms have suffered huge losses. So Zhang Yi quickly solved them all like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves. However, after the battle, after counting, the fleeing army actually lost 5 people and seriously injured 7 people. Such a loss ratio made Zhang Yi silent for a moment, and then he said to Bailey Chongqing and others, "This is war, isn't it?" Bailey Chongqing's combat uniform on the upper body was damaged a lot, revealing his strong muscles like black iron. He was injured, and even he was not at ease in this battle. "I'm sorry, Captain. We're still not strong enough," Bailey Chongqing said with some guilt. Zhang Yi shook his head. "Not really. Well, we won anyway. Let's go and treat the wounded first." Or he had too few people under his command. If the members of the fleeing army could reach 3 digits or even 4 digits, then the losses would definitely be greatly reduced. After all, in such a huge battlefield, it is impossible for an Epsilon-level alien to be all-round. In the end, one's own strength is the most important. As for the members of the fleeing force who are injured in the battle, he will continue to select talented aliens for training. The second batch of fleeing force members have actually been selected and are in the process of training. In the future, Zhang Yi will definitely build a super large base, and it would be best if there were a large number of captain-level combat forces. So, the question is, where can there be so many talented aliens? What is a captain-level alien now? In the eyes of an alien of Zhang Yi's strength, the captain level is no different from an ant and can be killed in one move. But for ordinary people and low-level aliens, the captain level is still an absolute strongman. There are not many people with this talent, and it is even more unimaginable to build a force composed of thousands of captain-level aliens. I finally understand now why high-level civilizations will develop artificial humans or mechanical life forms. Zhang Yi sighed. Whether it is the human-faced spider army seen underground in the Qinling Mountains or the mechanical army of the mechanical civilization, they do not need superpowers to exert powerful combat power. "Quran, after we go back, let's transform these mechanical life forms," Zhang Yi said to Lu Quran. Lu Quran drove the little snowy owl, and the jet propulsion system landed beside Zhang Yi with blue flames. Hearing Zhang Yi's order, she nodded. "Okay, brother. But this may take some time." Even though it has reached the level of Epsilon, the technology of mechanical civilization is not so easy to master. Of course, it is not difficult to perfectly replicate a mechanical life form. But to build a large army, the consumption is too great. In terms of materials, it is impossible for her to carry out material transformation without sleep, right? That would really tire her to death. And in terms of function, humans currently do not have the functional technology of mechanical life forms, especially the super-large red energy crystals. It is difficult to build a large army, but it is not difficult to repair these mechanical life forms, and then Xin will implant new programs into them so that they obey us. Lu Quran said. Zhang Yi rubbed his chin. "This sounds a lot easier." "It's a good idea," Zhang Yi said, raised his hand and opened a series of dimensional doors, which spread out above the battlefield. Soon, all the mechanical life forms on the battlefield took off and entered his dimensional space. In less than 5 minutes, the entire battlefield was cleaned up. This efficiency can be called a battlefield cleaner. Zhang Yi immediately led all the members to leave the area. Deng Shintong injected himself with drugs nearby. During the battle, he was also injured by those combat chariot mechanical life forms. He looked at the battlefield, reluctant to leave. Just leave like this? According to convention, there are treasures buried under the land they dig. Zhang Yi smiled contemptuously. Treasures? I'm afraid I'll die if I stay. Demon god Ding is the most important treasure. What else can be more important than his body and the spirit of sacrifice? Moreover, he killed the 4th existence of the upper demon god. Demon gods can ask for help from their companions. Maybe there will be more powerful beings next. Zhang Yi had just fought a great battle and was exhausted. He had to rush to a safe area as soon as possible to recover his strength. Deng Shintong said nothing more after hearing this. Also in the shadow space, the spy Ling brought by Zhang Yi sat on a metal box with her legs shaking. Hearing what Zhang Yi said, she said with a playful look on her face, "You are so cautious, Mr. Chaos." Zhang Yi glanced at her. He had considered Ling's advice when he chose to come here. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that this woman was unusual. She was shrouded in an impenetrable mist. "What do you think, Miss Ling?" Zhang Yi asked. Ling slowly raised her head and looked at the empty sky and the shadow space. "My suggestion? Since you can even deal with demon god Ding, why don't you try to deal with other demon gods? Those are all good stuff." Hey, she suddenly looked at Zhang Yi, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Or else, go fight the most powerful demon god." Zhang Yi sneered. What a joke. This time, he didn't intend to listen to Ling's advice. Demon god A. Not only did he not have any intelligence in his hands, but now he really needed to rest. As for what to do next, he had to observe the situation of other battlefields first. Seeing that Zhang Yi didn't listen to her advice, Ling just spread her hands helplessly, but she didn't continue to make suggestions, but continued to pick up her electronic equipment out of boredom. Many things happened at the same time. The entire battlefield of Fremons was full of battles between the alien army and the mechanical life body army. Zhang Yi and his team were not the first to set out, but they were definitely the first to return. A war involving tens of thousands of mechanical life forms, they ended in less than an afternoon. So when they returned to Samarin, everyone on the Fremon side was stunned. The soldiers and officers looked at Zhang Yi as if they were looking at a monster. If it weren't for the spy satellites that could observe the changes on the battlefield, they couldn't even believe that Zhang Yi had set out. Bodaga was in the office, holding a glass of vodka in his hand when he received the news, and calculating everything that happened on the battlefield in his mind. Knowing that Zhang Yi had defeated the mechanical army led by the demon god Ding and returned to Samarin, the vodka in his hand was spilled all over the floor. Chaos won and is back. Bodaga was stunned. After a long time, he murmured, "Is this guy's strength so strong?" The space system and the time system, the two attributes are fused in one alien, which is really terrifying. But soon, he called Zhang Yi on video. Zhang Yi answered the video call and knew that this guy was here to ask for the agreed 10% share of the spoils. Badaja's face appeared in front of him. This time, Zhang Yi could clearly see the shock in his eyes. "Mr. Chaos, you won so quickly?" With the facts in front of him, he couldn't help but ask one more question, hoping that this was just a beautiful misunderstanding. But Zhang Yi nodded and said lightly, "Yes. Mr. Badaja, aren't you happy for me?" Badaja heard this and shook his head quickly. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, of course I'm happy for you. I just didn't expect your efficiency to be so high." Zhang Yi showed a playful smile on his face. "That's also thanks to the two arsenals provided by Fremons." Badaja was stunned at this time. Although the spy satellite can monitor the battlefield, when the war really breaks out, the powerful energy reaction and the electromagnetic storm created by a large number of mechanical life forms make it impossible for him to see everything that happens during the war. So he doesn't understand what those old-time thermal weapons can do. In fact, the reason why he allowed Zhang Yi to take those weapons was that he thought Zhang Yi was blackmailing him. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to put them to good use. Zhang Yi said lightly, "If there were no weapons from those two arsenals, I wouldn't have been able to win so smoothly." These words were by no means empty words. If there hadn't been a large amount of weapons pouring down, the formation of the mechanical army would have been disrupted first, and their energy would have been consumed, destroying a large number of mechanical life forms. With just the Fui Ying troops and the dozens of people in the Tianxin team, even if there were several Ypsilons joining the battlefield, it would be a question whether they could win in the end. The strength of mechanical life forms should not be underestimated, not to mention that there are those super-large mechanical life forms that are comparable to Ypsilon-level combat power. Lord of War is the most expensive and most efficient group battle skill in the world. What is pouring down from the sky is not iron rain, but gold rain. What is burning is money. Bodaka thought for a long time, before gradually understanding what Zhang Yi meant. He widened his eyes, shocked that there was such a tactical method. However, apart from Zhang Yi, no one else in the world can carry such a large number of weapons alone and bomb a battlefield of hundreds of kilometers. A space-based ability user actually has this method? Bodaga felt that he had learned something again, but it was a pity that there was no such alien in Fremons. Zhang Yi stretched out his hand to Bodaga. According to our previous agreement, all weapons and equipment used on the battlefield are provided by you Fremons. So, I need to replenish the munitions. The muscles on Bodaga's face twitched fiercely. Even if Fremons is a major military power, it can't withstand such a level of consumption. What's more, Karen City is fallen, and Samran City is just a temporary capital. After thinking for a while, he gave Zhang Yi an address. This is the address of one of our arsenals. When the war broke out, we couldn't transport the weapons in it in time, so we left them there. If you need it, you can go and get it yourself. Bodaga felt a little sour in his heart at this time. The convenience of space-based aliens is really enviable. Moreover, the space-based aliens in front of him not only have extremely strong auxiliary attributes, but also have amazing combat power. Okay. Zhang Yi certainly wouldn't be polite to Bodaga when he thought about using weapons to fill his own space again. If he was full, he would be very satisfied. If there were not enough weapons, even if there was only a little less, he would feel uneasy. Lord Chaos, the 10% of the spoils we agreed on before, what do you think? Bodaga asked impatiently. Don't worry, just send someone to get it. Who knew that this time? Bodaga shook his head and said seriously, we don't want those mechanical life forms. Huh. Zhang Yi stared at Bodaga, feeling like he had known this guy all over again. In his impression, Bodaga was a guy who was very fussy, very similar to someone he knew, but he couldn't remember who it was. Bodaga stared at Zhang Yi and said word by word, I know that you have defeated Demon God Ding. So his body is also in your hands, right? This time, we just want to get his information. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. Bodaga wants information about Demon God Ding? As a high-level demon god, Demon God Ding's body is obviously more advanced than Demon God Goe. So his information is also very valuable. But according to common sense, Bodaga should not be so anxious. Yang Xinxin's voice sounded in Zhang Yi's ears. Isn't the alien team of the Temple of the Gods targeting Demon God B? Bodaga's goal is to collect information about the upper demon gods and help them complete their combat missions. Compared to that, the 10% of supplies in your hand, brother, is not so important. Zhang Yi nodded. That's true. Bodaga also understood that even if Zhang Yi gave 10% of the supplies, they could only be those ordinary mechanical life forms. And the most important demon body could not be given to Fremons. But now the common enemy of the human coalition is the mechanical civilization. After a little thought, Zhang Yi shared the information he got this time with Bodaga. The attributes of the upper demon gods are ahead of the lower demon gods in all aspects. There is not much difference in the body materials, but the energy level is one level ahead. The most important thing is Demon God Ding. He has special abilities. Bodaga frowned. Special abilities. Zhang Yi said with a smile. Similar to superpowers. This guy is actually not a completely mechanical life form. To be precise, he is a man-made person with the core of a biological body. So, they can also exert abilities similar to superpowers. I hope you can remember this. After hearing this, Bodaga's eyes showed a look of astonishment. They are not mechanical life forms. The information provided by Zhang Yi is undoubtedly worth 1,000 gold. Because in the past, everyone believed that those demon gods were just higher-level combat-type mechanical life forms. But once it is confirmed that they are also man-made people transformed from biological organisms, then it is a completely different concept. Bodaga's eyes widened, and suddenly, he ended the communication. Because of this important information, he must inform the expedition team of the Temple of the Gods as soon as possible. Zhang Yi and others returned to their residence to rest. Yang Xia personally cooked for Zhang Yi and prepared a lot of delicious food. Now her ability index has reached the captain level of 9,800 points. The ability of aliens can be improved through continuous training. Combat aliens have to fight continuously, and auxiliary aliens also use their abilities repeatedly. So people like Yang Xia and Lu Karen have been rapidly improved in repetitive work. Of course, the most important thing is that Zhang Yi provides them with supplies at all costs. For example, if the centipede origin used by Zhang Yi on Yang Xia is placed on a person with the talent level of Bailey Chongqing, 1/3 is enough for him to reach the top level of Delta. But who makes Zhang Yi rich? He cultivates his own people, and the most important thing is loyalty. As long as he trusts someone, he will cultivate him at all costs. Yang Xia's ability is very strong now, and the food she makes has multiple functions. Her craftsmanship has also grown greatly in the past 3 years. Not only has she mastered a variety of cuisines, she is also good at making desserts, and her tea and coffee brewing are at a professional level. She served Zhang Yi the food she made, and Zhang Yi ate it in big mouthfuls. It not only replenished the energy he consumed, but also relaxed his body and mind. He planned to take a good rest for a while, and then ordered his men to tell him as soon as they had any intelligence from other battlefields. But at this moment, he suddenly thought of something and asked Deng Shentong, who was eating a piece of cake and black tea next to him, "I remember that the people of the Temple of the Gods went to deal with Demon God B. So which country's alien troops dealt with Demon God A?" It was not easy for Zhang Yi to defeat Demon God D. He also had awe in his heart for the top 3 demons and did not dare to underestimate the enemy. He was just curious which country's alien dared to take on this task. In his impression, King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table and Columbia's Natural Science Association have already had tasks. Deng Shintong thought for a while. "Well, I remember it seems to be someone from the Roman court." Rome. Zhang Yi frowned. He was not familiar with this place, but he also remembered that it was a country in the upper middle level of Europe. As for the aliens in that country, he didn't know anything. "Are they strong?" Deng Shintong shrugged. "I don't know. But I know one thing." He looked at Zhang Yi with a smile. His eyes were playful. In the battle with the mechanical army, they set the fastest record. They set the fastest records? Zhang Yi couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He didn't expect this. He always thought that the record they created of wiping out an entire mechanical army in just 20 minutes was the fastest. Deng Shintong nodded. They took less time. And it was almost only half of ours. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. It turns out that there are still masters. There is still no shortage of strong people in this world. I will investigate the top aliens in other countries when I have time. Relying on the Hua Federation area, the team that took on the mission here was a team of aliens from Rome. The most special thing about this team is that the 3 Ypsilons leading the team are a family of 3. The husband, god of light, Jupiter, is the most powerful god in Rome. The wife, goddess of frost, Juno, and their son, god of fire, Chris. Generally speaking, there is no such coincidence that a family of 3 are all aliens, and they are all top-level Ypsilon-level aliens. But everything is human. As long as you are willing to work hard, this kind of thing is not impossible. Not to mention for the most powerful alien in Rome. If you ask how he did it, it is of course because Juno was his wife whom he married later, and Chris was just his adopted son. After becoming the most powerful god in Rome, Indiana, order to consolidate his power, Jupiter married Juno and adopted Chris as his adopted son. Only in this way can he have the most stable authority, and no one in the whole of Rome can shake his position. Today's Rome is already his kingdom of Jupiter. When he came to Fremons, he was also ambitious to take this opportunity to create some merits. And the most important thing, of course, is to obtain a large amount of resources. So in the fierce scramble, he did not hesitate to take the most difficult, but definitely the most profitable task, the expedition against the demon armor. And for this expedition war, he also made sufficient preparations. Others came to Fremons with at most a few hundred followers. But this time, Rome directly mobilized 50,000 elite troops to join the battlefield. This battle once again displayed the majesty of the Holy Roman Empire to the world. Jupiter stood in midair, his body emitting a sacred light, and in front of him was a powerful army armed to the teeth. Snow chariots were like the most ferocious steel monsters, crawling quietly on the ground. Rome was not close to Fremon's, and in order to assemble this army, he spent a lot of energy and passed through several war zones before successfully arriving here. As long as we can successfully defeat the Mechanical Legion this time, then all the efforts will be worth it. By then, neither Britannia nor the European alliance will be able to suppress Rome's. Jupiter is ambitious. Europe has become a mess after the end of the world. Many countries are competing for resources and population, and the war has never stopped. Only by constantly fighting and becoming stronger can you become the king in this end of the world. Every day, new countries or forces are born, and some organizations are destroyed. For example, in the core area of Eurasia, Saladin of the Khatun Empire rose from the killing and established an empire that the surrounding countries dare not underestimate. Only by seizing the opportunity can you become the king in troubled times. Roman army, follow me to conquer the enemy. Jupiter's voice echoed in the earphones of every Roman soldier. The army set out and began to attack the area, relying on the Hua Federation according to the established tactical plan. They have been preparing for this battle for a long time and have figured out the distribution of mechanical life forms here.